All right, let's talk some more Browns about third amigo Andre Knott, WTAM Browns beat reporter. Coming in, 15 guys were out of practice today, Dre, and the bicycle gang is getting bigger and bigger out there.
The Tour de Berea got a little bigger today. Today was a weird day of practice because there was so much excitement leading up to the first game, and then when you got out to Berea today and they didn't have pads on, the game was just okay. I mean, we can be nice in that. And then you see all these guys that aren't practicing, that aren't, in pads. You have the guys on the bikes. Heck, we didn't even see Scott Fujita. We didn't see Travis Benjamin. And I thought that was weird. Those two didn't practice because of soreness, after a game. It's 2 days after a game. I'll be honest with you, Mike. The injuries have to scare us a little bit, especially when it's Mohamed Massaquoi and even Dimitri Patterson and Scott Paxson. Those are the ones that jump out to me that kind of are a glaring problem with just some of the other things that are going on with the team already.
And how quickly they went down in succession, Dre, in that game on Friday night. I mean, within, a matter of the second quarter, you're losing 3 or 4 guys, some starters, some guys that are obviously first in, but how concerned are they going forward, and how much are they kind of walking on pins and needles, waiting to find out what's going to really happen to some of these guys?
Well, I'll start with Dimitri Patterson. Dimitri is a guy that they re-signed thinking at some point in time he would be able to be a starting cornerback. Now, obviously, he's going to be a third corner. And then with the situation with Joe Hayden hanging over everyone's head right now at this point in time, not knowing when he will be suspended or when that will come up, they're dependent on him to be a starter, a guy that's going to play a lot of snaps. Now, if it's just an ankle injury, and it looked like it was just an ankle injury, probably 2 to 3 weeks, as long as it's not a high ankle sprain. So you would hope that he'd be ready for opening day. The one that worries me, and I think it worries the team, is Mohamed Massaquoi. We've talked about it all offseason long, Mike, that everyone has kind of said, hey, if he's over the concussions, he's over that hit from James Harrison 2 years ago, he's going to be a good player. I don't think it was a false thing that they went out and they made the first play of the game on Thursday night. They threw the ball to Massaquoi, and he goes down with that head injury, and there was kind of some talk back and forth whether he had a concussion. He has one. This is 3 years in a row, maybe the 5th possible one he's had, and with the rules of concussions and the talk of concussions, it's a problem. And then you start looking, well, the next guy up is Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon didn't seem ready for the big time Thursday night. Now, maybe it's the first time. He looked like a guy that hadn't played football in 2 years. He really did. And today's practice wasn't the best practice for Josh Gordon either. So you just keep looking at this and you're going, okay, maybe Josh Cribbs is going to have to play a little bit more wide receiver than we thought previously. And I just think Massaquoi was going to be big to Greg Little and Josh Gordon growing because they expected him to be that veteran leader. And suddenly, I don't know what you do with him if he really has another bad concussion.
Josh Gordon in game 1 going a little bit through the Greg Little of last year, a guy who had been out of football, and he came in because, to me, watching that game, he had some problems with the press coverage, but we talked to him after practice today. He said that wasn't the problem at all.
Mike, I agree with you more than Josh Gordon in this one. It seems like, and look, he hasn't played in a while, and he is a big guy, and corners are smaller guys, and they're going to get up underneath you and reroute you. I think he found out, he made a comment today, he goes, I'd have been a little bit more aggressive if I would have known they were going to try to detour me from catching. Yeah, that's what they're going to do in the NFL. And I'm not putting Josh down. Because as you said, he's going through a crash course. Think about it. A month and a half ago, this kid was trying to figure out, am I going to go to University of Houston? Are they going to let me back to Utah? And then suddenly you go, you better go to the NFL. So I understand it's a whirlwind for him. But the Browns really are in a situation where they need him to be ready, and I don't know if he can be as ready as they're going to need him to be ready on September 9th.
All right, let's hit some bright sides. Trevin Wade, obviously a huge bright side. This is a guy that was drafted late, and he's had some great practices, and he's coming along through camp.
Something Tom Hecker did when he drafted Trevin Wade out of Arizona is he drafted him. He always likes getting corners. We always talk about that. But Trevin Wade played a ton of plays at Arizona. I think he was a 3-year starter at Arizona. Not a star, but he played. And I think that's going to help him be able to play here because he's played over 40-some games or 40-some starts at Arizona. He worked with the first-team defense today and the nickel defense, usually where Dimitri Patterson would be. Joe Hayden was awesome in practice again today. That is a weird situation, because we're watching him, and he is the best player in camp, hands down. Wow. And if you miss him for 4 games, this team can ill afford that, and it looks like that's probably what's going to happen. But Wade is a guy that makes you feel a little bit better in those young secondary guys that they have.
And throw in Eric Hagg, another guy that they got late, and another guy that's having a great camp. He's probably going to start.
He is going to start. There's no doubt. This is the second year in a row Usama Young really hasn't been able to go through the paces of camp because of a hamstring injury. And he's been Hagg has definitely been one of the highlights of camp. I think he's bigger than what I think most of us think. think, but he's intelligent too, and he seems to be in the right place at the right time. So that's a good one right now.
All right, before I let you go, we got to talk a little bit about the Green Bay game coming up, which, you know, Pat Shurmur says if there's anything you can take away from any of the preseason games, number 2 is the one that you look forward to. And the way this preseason schedule is set up, you play Philadelphia, who you open with, so nothing's going to happen there. So this is really an important game, but we really don't know who's going to be in the game.
We don't, and I think, Mike, that's a great point. I think 2 things. If you're going to pay attention to the games leading up to September 9th, pay attention this week to Philadelphia and Cleveland. Both coaches pretty much have come out today and said they're going to do their, you know, their game-like most situation this week rather than next week, because they're going to play each other in 16 days after the game next week. Pat Shurmur told us the starters are going to play a half. Now, what starters are they going to be? I mean, DeQuell Jackson, you know, DeQuell Jackson looks like he's healthy, but he hasn't practiced in a couple days. Scott Fajita wasn't out there today. This is going to be interesting to see what happens. Brandon Weeden, I think, is going to play. Mitchell Schwartz is going to have to play. You know, Trent Richardson is going to be back. So you say you're going to have the starters, but what portion of starters are going to be out there? I think it's more really they have to find some guys on defense. The Scott Paxson injury is bigger than I think any of us think right now, because he's a depth player. And when you don't have Phil Taylor to start the season, Ruben's just coming back. He's already said the 2 young defensive linemen aren't there. Paxson was a guy they were going to rely on. Suddenly, there's some jobs to earn come Thursday night in Green Bay.
Now, I know people probably haven't called you yet on this, or maybe I'm about to open the floodgates, but Dre, Andrew Luck looked amazing in his first start, and Brandon Weeden not so amazing in his first start. He's going to get a full half against Green Bay, but I mean, seriously, what do you tell Browns fans who are going, oh, Andrew Luck? I mean, that's all I've heard since I came to the station today.
Yeah, he did look awesome. I mean, you can't. I mean, that was the talk amongst us out in Browns camp today was, did you see what Andrew Luck did today? RG3 didn't look bad either that first night. I think it just tells you both of those guys have been catered to be the starter from day one. And I'm not putting Weeden down, because I think Weeden did do some good things.
Watch him. He's going to follow you.
Yeah, he's probably watching right now. I'm sorry, Brandon. I got to be honest. But he did make some passes at the same time that looked like a rookie. And I didn't personally see every pass that Andrew Luck threw, but I did see everyone Weeden threw. And Weeden did look like a rookie on a couple plays. Now, there are a couple passes that he did throw where you go, wow.
Yeah.
But Andrew Luck is, hey, there's a reason he was a #1 pick, and there's a reason why the Indianapolis Colts were willing to take all those bashings over the head last year. And now and even with RG3, you see why Washington moved up to get him. You know, that one drive he had, it looked pretty darn good.
2-1-6, but no.
Not today.
Right now at WTAM, Browns beat reporter about to get his phone blown up. Of course, our third amigo talking Browns. Thanks, Dre.
No problem, man.